Growing up in the 70s and 80s, we didn't only watch our favorite television show, we played them with the family. Let's look at 10 unique TV show board games. Welcome back to the Junkman, everybody. It's me, the Junkman. I'm coming back with another video. Can you believe it? Another video already. Seems like just yesterday we did too. Well, what are we going to talk about today? Well, you know, because you saw the title, you saw the intro. Board games. Now, a lot of times nowadays they'll take a board game that's famous like Monopoly or Clue or I don't know, some other game I can't think of off the top of my head, and they'll take a movie or television show that's really hot and incorporate that in. Like you might get Clue, The Simpsons, or Monopoly, Breaking Bad, or hell, I don't know, you might get Trivial Pursuit, WandaVision. I don't know. But back in the 70s, 80s, you know, people put a lot more thought into things. They would take a popular television show and build a whole game around it. A unique game where this was the only way to play that game. It wasn't just taking an already established game like Clue or Monopoly and slapping a title on it that we all heard before. New board, new rules, new fun. So we're going to look at 10 of probably the most unique television show games I could find. I left off some of the ones we all know. I mean, we all played the MASH board game, so there was no reason to bring that up. Now, before we get started, as always, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, head over to patreon.com, links in the description below, or a YouTube member. And Monday, like we always do, we do a live stream on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern where we talk Star Wars. For YouTube members and Patreon members, we're going to do an after show, about 30 minutes after the original live show, where you guys just get to hang out and interact. And as always, you can buy a cool t-shirt over at junkmanmerch.com, like this one, right here. Yes, so head over to, okay, got all that stuff out of the way. You don't care about all that. You heard that a million times. Let's talk board games. Now, there's probably a reason they call these board games. As a kid, I thought because they came with a board. But the more I played them, the more I realized they were boring. Let's be honest, board games were there were a few exceptions here and there. I mean, you had Cat's Eye and you had, I don't know, you had Stratego. I love Stratego. But overall, most of these games were pretty boring after at least the second time you played it. Kind of like Nintendo. I grew up on Nintendo. I loved it. I got the little Nintendo Mini, hacked into it, put like 600 games on it. Hooked it up last night, played it for about 5 minutes. I'm like, every game on here sucks. But as a kid, I loved them. Now I'm not talking about Mario. We all love Mario. I mean, there's some exceptions, but overall, most of the games for this thing suck. Like most of the board games. You play it once, you play it twice. After that, you never touched it again. Or if you were like me, you get a board game for Christmas and your brothers and sisters were too old, they wouldn't want to play Smurf Adventure with you. So you end up with a board game and nobody to play it with, so you had to make up your own game so you could play it as one player. Remember doing that a lot. And even if there was a fun game, chances are by the end of the game you're going to slap your grandma upside the head with a board or maybe slice your brother's neck open with one of the cards. It would start a family war playing some of these games. But now let's look at 10 unique television show games. Although I'm going to look at 70s and the 80s, most of these are from the 70s. It seems like 70s was a time to really throw television stuff into board games. 80s moved more on to film. Like you had the Escape from New York board game and others based on movies. And if you like this video, I'll do one about movies next week. So let's just start with this top 10 list. Number 1, I love the name of this one, Welcome Back Kotter. It's not only is it a Welcome Back Kotter game, the actual title of the game is Welcome Back Kotter, Up Your Nose with a Rubber Hose. They should have came up with a sequel game called In Your Ear with a Can of Beer. Would have been great. But who didn't love Welcome Back Kotter? What's up, Mr. Kotter? And you have to say that. Welcome Back Kotter. And what about Horse Shack? Oh, the Screech of the 70s. Miss you, Screech. I miss you too, Horse Shack. What a nerd. But my favorite was Gabe Kapling. It's funny, watching in the 70s, I thought he was a corny dad joke guy. But then when I got older and watched it, I was like, He's the heart of the show. I love Gabe Kaplan, and what a poker player. So let's take a look at the Welcome Back Kotter Up Your Nose with a Rubber Hose board game. Be the first player to complete Up Your Nose with a Rubber Hose. Each player in the game will assume the identity of one of the student characters in Mr. Kotter's class by moving to the front desk in each row. A player collects 6 word cards that completes the expression. Drawing a Woodman or Carter card may help also. I get it. You want to be one of the students. You want to be John Travolta. But why couldn't we be Mr. Kotter? Mr. Kotter! What's up, Mr. Kotter? Oh, I hope at least once you get to play as Epstein and you can say, I got a note from my mother. Didn't he say that all the time? Oh, I'm getting my shows mixed up. I think he did. One of the biggest television shows of the 70s, of course, had to be All in the Family. They had 2 different games, but we're going to take a look at this one here. And actually, when I was reading the description of it, I said, hey, that might be kind of fun. Now, I put this as a board game, but it didn't come with a board. But we're going to count it as a board game. Let's take a look at All in the Family. Match up the responses to the person you think most likely was the one to say it. Responses put in by the MC, and you can also score if you guess who said it. You will find that some of these players are so much like Archie or Edith that you really can't tell a difference. You can't tell a difference between something Archie says and Edith says. Find that hard to believe. Now, if it was Archie or Meathead say it, you know, because it was something dumb, chances are Meathead said it. Now we looked at All in the Family. What's next? One of the shows I loved in the 80s. I hadn't watched it since the 80s. I wonder if it holds up. But I watched it mostly so I could see Mallory Keaton. Sorry, Tina Yothers. We all watched for Mallory. No one watched for Tina Yothers. Hell, no one's even seen Tina Yothers since the show went off the air. Of course, I'm talking about the Scott Valentine classic, Family Ties. Let's take a look at the board game. You are one of the Keatons, trying to surprise the rest of the family by having a family portrait taken. To do it, you have to get all the family members together and have $100 to pay the photographer. And then there's Skippy, the neighbor who considers himself as part of the family. With a little luck, skill, and strategy, you just might make it work out. That damn Skippy. Who didn't love Skippy? I'll be honest, I'll base my whole adult life off Skippy. What would Skippy do? So, we looked at the Family Ties game, so what else is next? Well, one of my favorite shows from the 80s, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about it before. The TV show, the theme song, the action figures. Hell, they even had a lunchbox based on the Dukes of Hazzard. Love this show. It was great. It's corny and it's kind of cheesy, but overall, it's a great fun show. They just don't make shows like that anymore. That doesn't take itself too seriously. That's just fun to watch for an hour. And who didn't love Rascal P. Coltrane? Them Duke boys. Love it. So let's look at the Dukes of Hazzard board game. There are 2 roads to Uncle Jesse's farm, and you're in a wild race to get there first. The dirt road is safe but slow. The highway is fast but loaded with trouble. Switching roads, setting up roadblocks, and bumping other cars off the road are all part of the action. Choose your wheels and hit the road to Hazzard County. Someday the mountain might get them, but as long as Balls Hogs run the show, the law never will. The Dukes of Hazzard board game. I want to play that right now. Here's one that I said I wasn't going to talk about because I thought I took it off my list, but I didn't. Uh-oh, I erred. Let's take a look at the MASH game. No, I didn't say the match game, although that'd be a fun game. MASH. Let's take a look. Hawkeye, Margaret, BJ, Klinger, and the rest of the MASH team are hard at work once again, bringing the wounded safely to the chopper pad so the injured can start their journey home. It's up to you to rescue at least 6 wounded and get a complete chopper to the chopper pad by moving along the path. But be careful, some of the MASH cards on the MASH space can hinder your mission. Select your favorite MASH character from the game board, roll the die, and begin your mission. I don't like MASH. My brother used to love MASH all the time, but I never could get into it. And I've gone back as an adult and tried to watch it, and I give you there's probably some good first couple of seasons, but I don't know. I just couldn't get into MASH. It just doesn't hold up, at least to me. Let me know what you think about MASH. But one show that did hold up is the only show I know that has Lee Majors sitting in a pool of his own filth playing with a rubber ducky. And I know we've all dreamed about seeing that ever since we watched the $6 Million Man. But of course we're not talking about the 6 Million Man. We're talking about the Fall Guy, the greatest stuntman in history. So let's look at the Fall Guy board game. Roll the dice and move along the board. Be the first player to capture the bell jumper and have all 4 stunt cards face up. They were just simple with how to play the game. They didn't overcomplicate this game at all. Get the bell jumper. Have your cards face up. Maybe one day someone will know the unknown stuntman. So we looked at the Fall Guy. We looked at Dukes of Hazzard. We looked at MASH. But now it's probably one of the best comedies of the 80s. Murder, She Wrote. I tell you, I would never go to a party with this lady. Everywhere she goes, I don't care if it's the DMV, to Walmart, I don't care where she goes. Wherever she goes or invited to, someone dies. They really ought to investigate her. But let's look at the board game for Murder, She Wrote. One player is secretly and randomly chosen to be the murderer. The rest are detectives. The murderer player wins if he or she can murder 5 witnesses, escape off the game board before he or she is discovered. A detective player wins by being the first to discover the identity of the murderer. Whew, that's one dark board game. Man, and this is one board game you don't want to play with just 2 people. It's like if there's just 2 people and there's a fart in the elevator. They all know who did it. Okay, what else can we talk about? Let me check my notes. Oh, I've been rewatching this show on Crackle. That's right, I watch Crackle. I've been watching this show. I don't think they only got 1 season on it, some random season. But this is pretty funny. I need to go back and watch it all. Watch it as a kid, just because my parents did. Didn't really find the humor, but it's pretty damn funny today. Barney Miller. If you hadn't seen Barney Miller in years, check it out, man. I wish somebody, Netflix or somebody, would put the whole season on. But they made a Barney Miller board game. Let's see if you get to play with fish. Assuming the identity of one of Barney Miller's detectives, use a deck of evidence cards and arrest warrants. Be the first to book all 4 suspects that appear on the wanted poster. Yeah, you get to be fish. That sounds like a lot of fun right there. Now, there was another board game based on the 80 television show. I remember watching this show all the times in the 80s. It came on right after Love Boat, and I think they were in the same universe. Of course, we're talking about the plane, boss, the plane. Fantasy Island. And when I talk Fantasy Island, I'm talking about Fantasy Island with Mr. Rourke. I'm not talking about that remake with the guy from Star Trek. And I'm not talking about a god-awful movie with Lucy Hale. I'm talking about the original Fantasy Island with Mr. Rourke himself. Con! Welcome to Fantasy Island. Want to be a starship captain or a fashion model? Maybe a millionaire? These are just 3 of the 12 fantasies you can try to be. Mr. Rourke and Tattoo will be your hosts. They got surprises planned. You may set out for Adventure Valley, but wind up at Misfortune Mountain. You can be sure you'll visit all the island. You'll need to make it to the main house and become the winner. It's a fantasy come true with a Fantasy Island board game. Yeah, we sat around and played the Fantasy Island board game on a Friday night. Don't judge us. This is before we had the internet, before YouTube, before Netflix, before The Mandalorian. What else were we going to do with our time? But let's look at one more. And this one I couldn't really fit into a movie category or a television category. But I wanted to bring it up because I never heard of this game till now. But if I saw this game as a kid, I would have had to have it. And it's called No Respect, the Rodney Dangerfield game. Who doesn't love Rodney Dangerfield? Easy Money, Caddyshack. What was the school one? Damn, I drew a blank on the school one. Oh, shit. Can't believe I forgot the name of that. Easy Money. Meet Rolly Sparks. We'll skip that one. Can't believe I forgot the name of the... Fuck. Oh, Back to School. What was I thinking? Back to School. Okay, let me start all over. Easy Money. Caddyshack. Meet Rolly... We won't talk about Meet Rolly Sparks. And Back to School. Almost forgot the name again. He gets no respect. Not even when he did that rap song. But let's take a look at the Rodney Dangerfield board game. Stay alive by playing number titles on your own columns or on your opponents to stop them. If you're the first one to reach the top, or at least to play a member, you win, and everyone else is a loser. I've read that description like 10 times. It don't sound like it has anything to do with Ronnie Dangerfield. It don't seem like it has much to do with not getting respect. It doesn't seem as funny as Ronnie Dangerfield. It doesn't even sound fun. Sounds pretty damn stupid if you ask me. Anyway, that's a look at 10 board games based on television shows from the 70s or the 80s. And I think I'll do a follow-up video of board games based on movies. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that, or just thumb up this one and then I'll know you like the video. Well, let me know in the comments below some board games based on television shows you had. Some that you wanted, or maybe some that you did have and hated or loved. Let me know all that and more in the comments below. And until the next video, thumb up this one so you like my content, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk again soon.
Junkman.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.